Thanks everyone for your patience. We've all learned all these new platforms and all of these new ways to participate. And it's really very exciting. I'm really honored to be your guest speaker today through Ignite. And I want to thank all of you for coming on and for being a part of really trying to get more young women engaged and involved in the political process. I have to tell you, I had never run for office until I became a member of Congress. I had been in appointed positions. I had been in and out of government service, which I absolutely loved. But that very first race that I ran back in 2012, it was in large part young people who helped get me through a 7-way primary where I won by 1%. My son was a senior in high school. My daughter was a senior in college. And it was truly young people and women. Indiana had not sent a Republican woman to Congress in 50 years. And I was very proud of all the women and all the young people that got really engaged in my campaign. I will tell you that now more than ever, it's critically important. As you heard, your generation could make up an incredibly significant voting bloc. And it's very important that you register. And I watched the social media interaction, the apps, and how Ignite and others are encouraging your registering to vote. Back in my day, you actually had to physically mail something in or you had to be in person. And now with social media, you can do it so very easily. But registering is not enough. Registering is critically important. Voting, you obviously have to register to vote, but our voting participation in this country is not incredibly high. And I think that is something that we all need to work on as well, is getting people to turn out to vote, or to make sure that they vote when voting begins, whether it is through mail, whether it's going to vote centers, or whether it is showing up on election day. So it's not just registering, but it's actually also taking the time, making the effort to vote. Why is that so important? If you think about it, people fought for centuries for the right to vote in this country. And in fact, women have actually only had the right to vote since 1919. So just a little over 100 years ago, women had the right to vote. In fact, you may not realize that it wasn't until 1971 that 18-year-olds got the right to vote. It used to be 21 years old was the age for people to vote. And because of the 26th Amendment in 1971, so 50 years ago, essentially, that 18-year-olds got the right to vote. I have always very, very much valued listening to young people because so many of the problems we work on, you learn about in school, you have strong opinions about. So I've always had what I call youth advisory groups, where I bring young people, because my kids are older now, 27, 30, but I want to hear what young people are worried about, what they're concerned about, what they want us elected leaders to focus on. And so something I'd like to encourage you all to do is to make sure that you're interacting with your elected officials. We're citizens just like you, young, old, all different kinds of backgrounds. Some came with political experience, some did not. I'm not just talking about members of Congress. I'm talking about your local elected officials, your state elected officials, as well as your members of Congress. Speak up, get to know them, get them to understand what you care about. And what your perspectives are. Build those relationships. Work on a campaign. Help in a campaign. Find somebody that you care about or that you'd like to see in elected office and consider giving of your time. Whether it's a social media warrior, whether it's working the polls, whether it's making phone calls. There's so much that you can do, whether you're in college, whether you're at home, whether you're working. Finding that time to really make a difference in a campaign. I will tell you that, studying the issues and making sure that you appreciate that there are often two sides to every argument. and making sure you understand. When I meet with people who come to visit me, whether in DC or in my district office or out in public, I often ask, when they give me their position on something, I often ask, what does the other side say? What is the other side of the argument? I'm a lawyer. I'm trained as a lawyer. I like to always understand both sides of an argument. And I would strongly encourage you to understand and to make sure you're learning both sides of an argument on an issue. Then finally, I think getting involved in some leadership position, whether it is in student government, if you're in high school or if you're in college, if you're working and there is an entity that you can join to become a leader, test the waters, start that leadership at a young age. Right before getting on this chat with all of you, I just visited with a mayor of a small town in my district, Zionsville, Indiana. And a young woman just became the new mayor. I have watched her career. We both worked in City Hall together. She's a Democrat. I'm a Republican. I've really enjoyed watching her career. And I told her I was coming to speak with you all. Her name is Emily Styron. I'm very proud of her. And yes, she's from the other party, but we are all focused on good government and what government can do for people. And what we had really good discussions about COVID and how that community is coping. But what I talked with her about, I asked when she first got involved, and she said student government as a sophomore in high school, that she was her class president and got involved in student government. So whatever organization you care about, consider testing the waters, learn about your leadership style, try out some different styles. All of those things will make a difference. But I just want to wrap up because I want to make sure, since it took me a little while to get on this call, that there's plenty of time for questions. And I just want to thank all of you for participating from all around the country, maybe in other parts of the world. I am retiring at the end of this congressional session. I happen to be one that believes in term limits. I said I was going to term limit myself. I've been in Congress for 8 years. I've loved it. I've learned so much. I feel like I have contributed. I am retiring as the National Republican Congressional Recruitment Committee for National Republicans. Democrats did an amazing job bringing a lot of women to Congress in this last congressional session. I'm trying to do that for the Republican Party. I'm really proud that 226 women have stepped up all across the country to run as Republicans, the highest number we've ever had. We've only ever had 130. And so 226. So far, 45 have made it through their tough primaries and are on the general election ballot. Hope to have many, many more, because having the voice of women, all ages, young women, older women, we have so much to share, so many life experiences. So I'm really proud and hope that the next Congress reflects even more voices of women at the table. So with that, would be happy to take any questions you might have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll read. I've seen this question a few times, so I'm going to ask you, what are some wins and also some struggles you've had specifically as a woman in politics?
I will say that I do think women have struggled to in politics in raising funds. Fundraising is really, really hard work. We're not accustomed to asking for money for ourselves. We're more comfortable, often women, asking for money for other causes or helping even raise money for other people. But when you are in politics and when you are running in elected office or seeking elected office, you have to get comfortable asking and convincing people why you are the best person and why they should invest in you. And investing in you can be a difficult ask at the beginning. So I had a little bit of a hard time. And actually, the very first time I ran, because I think people were surprised I had never run for office, I actually was asked by an older gentleman in the party whether or not there was a different office that I might want, because he had another favorite in the race. And I asked him, well, is there a different office that other person might want, because I'm not getting out? And that sometimes happens, that people will try to encourage you maybe to step aside. Maybe it's not your turn. But I think you will know in your heart when it is your time. Your family, friends, and support people around you will help you get there. They might say, your closest friends and family might say, no, you need to do a few more things, or no, you need to work on this before you jump in. You do need to listen to those who are closest to you. But you need people to be brutally honest with you. You also, when you jump in and decide to run for office, you've got to be able to ask everybody you know and every family member to be there and to support you. It takes a huge team effort to really win those races. And so you want that team there by your side. But you got to listen, and you got to be wise and jump at the right time.
Awesome. Thank you. Great advice.
Thanks.
The next question is, what caused you to change course from being a lawyer to becoming a congresswoman? And why have you chosen to retire from politics now?
Okay. Well, I practiced law for 13 years, and actually going into public service was not my idea. I was a criminal defense attorney. I represented people in the criminal courts for many years. I had a very successful law practice. I loved my practice. But the mayor of Indianapolis, Steve Goldsmith, in the late 90s, recognized that I had an expertise in the criminal justice system. He also knew I had been very involved in my community. And so he asked me to come join him in City Hall to work on our city's crime issues and to work to improve the criminal justice system. So I actually had about a week to decide whether or not to close up a very successful practice, turn over my practice to others, and to go join City Hall. It was a very gutsy move, a lot of risk, because I didn't know he ended up choosing not to run again. But it was the most impactful 2 years in my career, because I realized how much I loved public service. And while I loved what I was doing as a lawyer and felt like I was making a difference in people's lives, going and working in City Hall gave me a whole different perspective on problem solving, on working on bigger community issues, not just individuals' issues. And I was pretty good at it. And I really loved it. I loved building coalitions, bringing people together. So then the Republicans lost the mayor's office in 2 years. I then went back into the private sector, and then I went back into the public sector as a U.S. attorney. So my career, don't be afraid to go in and out of public service, maybe back to the private sector or something else you were doing. Find a way to get involved, whether it's at the local, state, or federal level. Internships, particularly for young people, are a great way. I strongly encourage you to consider internships, either at state level, local, or federal level, because you will see whether or not it's something you really enjoy or not. You might get there and go, this is not for me. I've had some interns that said, wow, this is a lot tougher. It's a lot, citizen engagement's very difficult. It can be at times. And some people completely embrace it. Other people say, no, I've tried it. It's not for me. But after 8 years, I'm at a point in my life, personally, with aging parents, very elderly in-laws, kids who are getting older and hopefully going to start settling down, that it's time for me to shift and focus my life more on my family. And I'll stay involved in politics in some way, but I don't see myself running for public office again. But my family has been completely behind me in my career. And now, as my parents and in-laws are really getting older, it's time for me to refocus.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. We have another question. I've seen this question a couple times in the chat. Do you think you need a college degree? And if so, what level to run for office?
Well, I would say I am a huge believer in higher education. And higher education, though, can mean many things. I do believe that when people do have a college degree, whether it is from a four-year university, whether it is from right before I went to Congress, I worked for our state's community college system. And I saw unbelievably hardworking, smart people getting their associate's degrees or working through credentialing programs to get credentials to improve themselves. And I think what having a college degree does do, it shows people that you can commit to a goal, that you can work through whatever challenges might be before you in reaching that goal. And I am one that always tells people, if you do get that graduation, walk and get that diploma, because it is a big moment in your life, whether you're getting an associate's degree or a college degree. But certainly people have the ability to contribute in significant ways without college degrees. But yet I do believe that the electorate likes to see that people have invested in themselves, that they have continued. It's all about lifelong learning, though. A degree in and of itself isn't enough. When I came to Congress, I couldn't believe how many subjects I didn't know about. So you've just got to be about lifelong learning. That's so important. Continue to learn and be willing, like me getting on this platform, me getting on all these other platforms I've never used before. You've got to be about lifelong learning and the importance of education and learning, whatever form that takes.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. We have time for one more question, so I'm just going to randomly pick it. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, there's a thunderstorm going on over here. Let's see. Okay. Do you have any advice for women starting a political career in a really male-dominated environment? I am actually helping in campaign with opposition candidate in Poland.
Oh, okay. I would say that building coalitions that include men and women. I always like to talk with young men about supporting women. So I don't believe we should always just focus on women supporting women. We have to get men to support women. And it's very important that when you build coalitions and build teams, in my view, that you have both men and women on your team. I think that because everyone comes with their own backgrounds, with their own experiences, and the broader and the more diverse of team that you can have, I think the more you will appeal to, the more people in the citizenry. And I think it also shows strength when you have strong men and strong women on your team.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
My family, I have ancestors in Poland. I have visited beautiful Warsaw, Poland one time. So best of luck to the person in Poland. And we do have to remember that, a lot of the struggles that we have as women in this country in elected office are happening all around the globe. We can all learn from each other and we can all share. I just want to, thank you all for letting me be a part of it. I'm sorry it took me a little while coming into the chat.